The players inside my top 10 for the Heisman pretty much stayed the same, but there was a lot of movement after this past weekend. So, as we get ready to enter week 12, here's my top 10 Heisman rankings. Before we get to today's video, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you're watching this video, odds are that you love college football, and odds are you aren't subscribed to my channel. So make sure to subscribe to one of the best college football communities here on YouTube. I'll be posting college football videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. Also, don't forget to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. We're at the point of the season where it's truly becoming a week-to-week thing in regards to my rankings. So, coming in at number 10 is LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels. He climbed a lot in my rankings from last week, but his performance against Arkansas this weekend really had him slide down my list. He completed only 8 of 15 passes for 86 yards with no touchdowns and an interception. He also rushed for only 10 yards on 19 carries. Still, Jaden Daniels is having a fantastic season for the Tigers. As a whole, he's completing 69% of his passes for 2,000 yards. He's thrown 14 passing touchdowns with 2 interceptions while adding over 600 yards on the ground with 10 passing touchdowns. Bryce Young moves up a spot to number 9. He was solid this past weekend in Alabama's impressive road victory at Ole Miss. Young threw for 200 yards with 3 passing touchdowns. It's his first game with 3 passing touchdowns since the end of September against Vanderbilt. Overall for the season, Bryce Young is thrown for 2,500 yards with 22 passing touchdowns. Stetson Bennett re-enters my top 10 as he comes in at number 8. It's been about a month since Stetson Bennett was ranked inside my top 10, and he's quietly putting together a much better season than he had last year. He's already thrown for 2,900 yards, a new career high. He only has 14 passing touchdowns, but he's added 7 touchdowns on the ground. His numbers aren't as impressive as some of the other players on this list, but the fact that Georgia is undefeated and they're likely going to be the number 1 team in the country yet again, I think that has to add to Stetson Bennett's case just a little. Last week, I had Beau Nix all the way up at number 2, but after losing to Washington this past weekend, I unfortunately have him sliding all the way down to 7. Well, he still had a pretty solid game against the Huskies this weekend. He threw for just under 300 yards with 2 passing touchdowns while rushing for 50 yards and a rushing score. But Oregon lost to Washington and fell out of the playoff hunt. Based on how the Heisman odds were looking, Beau Nix didn't even look like he'd be finishing inside the top 5. Now, after losing this past weekend, I don't think he has any chance of cracking the top 5. Still, he's having arguably the best season by any quarterback, as he still leads the entire country with 39 touchdowns. He also leads the country, averaging 8.5 yards per play. But I think without Oregon being in playoff contention, his chances took a massive hit this weekend. TCU is still undefeated, and Max Duggan is still in the Heisman race. This past weekend was his worst game of the season, as he threw for only 125 yards with a passing touchdown. But TCU picked up the impressive road victory against a ranked Texas team. On the season, Duggan's thrown for 2,500 yards with 25 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He's also added 250 yards on the ground with 4 rushing scores. As long as TCU continues to win, I think Max Duggan is going to continue to climb in the Heisman rankings. Speaking of climbing in the Heisman rankings, I now have Drake May at number 5. He had another fantastic game this weekend as he threw for a career high 450 yards against Wake Forest. He also threw 3 passing touchdowns for the 7th time this season. In addition, May was also the leading rusher for the Tar Heels as he rushed for 70 yards with a rushing score. For the season, May has 3,400 passing yards and is completing 70% of his passes. He also has 34 passing touchdowns compared to only 3 interceptions. Meanwhile, on the ground, he's rushed for 600 yards with 5 rushing scores. North Carolina still has only 1 loss on the season, and they have a chance to win the ACC. Caleb Williams just continues to get better every week. This past weekend against Colorado, he threw for just under 300 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while rushing in 2 touchdowns as well. This is quite the run he's on, as over his last 4 games, Caleb Williams has thrown 17 passing touchdowns and has 3 rushing touchdowns. Overall for the season, Williams has thrown for over 3,000 yards with 31 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. He's also added 300 yards on the ground for 6 rushing scores. Blake Corum finally enters my top 3 as he continues to be the most impressive running back in the entire country. This past weekend against Nebraska, Corum rushed for 162 yards and had a rushing score. It's now his 7th consecutive game with at least 100 rushing yards. And he also has a rushing touchdown in every game this season. Overall for the season, Corum is averaging 6 yards a carry and has 1,350 rushing yards. He also has 17 rushing touchdowns, which leads the entire country. Hendon Hooker is back at number 2 after an incredible performance against Missouri. Hooker threw for over 350 yards with 3 passing touchdowns while rushing for 50 yards and a rushing score. On the season, Hooker is completing 71% of his passes for just under 3,000 yards. He has 24 passing touchdowns with only 2 interceptions. He's also rushed for over 400 yards with 5 rushing scores. He leads the SEC in pass completion percentage and is second in the entire country. He's also leading the nation in passing yards per attempt, averaging over 10 yards an attempt. His passing efficiency rating of 181.8 leads the SEC and is number 2 in the country as well. But sticking at number 1 this week is Ohio State quarterback CJ Stroud. This past weekend against Indiana, Stroud threw for 300 yards with 5 passing touchdowns. It's the 4th game this season in which Stroud has thrown for at least 5 touchdowns. Overall in the season, Stroud has thrown for 2,700 yards with 34 passing touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. CJ Stroud is my favorite, and he's currently the betting favorite as well. So it looks like if he's able to finish the season strong, especially against Michigan, CJ Stroud is likely going to be taking home the Heisman Trophy. Well, those are the 10 players I currently have in my Heisman race. Was there a player ranked too high or ranked too low, or a player that I didn't mention that should have cracked this list? Whoever you think it is, let me know in the comment section down below. With only a couple weeks left in the college football season, we're getting a really good understanding of which players have legitimate Heisman cases. It looks like CJ Stroud is the clear betting favorite, but there are a number of players that still have solid odds that could still win the Heisman Trophy. There's a lot of college football left to be played, and we could see a huge shakeup in the rankings over the next few weeks. So let me know in the comment section down below which players you think have legitimate chances of winning the Heisman, or which players you think are a long shot, but with a solid couple of weeks to close the season, they could potentially find themselves in the Heisman ceremony. Before you leave, make sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on those notifications if you're new to my channel. If you love college football, this is definitely the place for you. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm posting videos every day during the season, so make sure to subscribe if you call yourself a college football fan. Also, make sure to drop a like on this video as well. It helps out with that YouTube algorithm and helps share the video with more college football fans. Plus, it only takes a second to do. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.